Welcome to Songs of the Siren. The Legend of Zelda is my favorite game franchise. I wanted to do a tier list and put my opinions into the discussion. I will say the usual, this is only my opinion, and this is about how much I enjoyed each game, so don't get your panties in a bunch if you don't agree. We all experience games differently. Feel free to put your lists in the comments. What you agree with, what you disagree with, anything you would like to add. This will just be the mainline Zelda games. I haven't played all the Hyrule Warriors and Tingle games, so I'll leave those off until I do. I could talk forever on some of these games, so I will try to keep it sort of brief so I won't cover every aspect of every game. Okay, let's get started. Let's not go alone and visit the original Legend of Zelda. This was the first Zelda game I ever played when I was a kid. It was fun, but difficult and cryptic. Back then, most of us only got 2 or so games a year, one for birthday and one for Christmas, so you played what you had. We didn't realize how hard and unforgiving these games were. I played the original game and I got to the final dungeon, but I think I got lost and never finished it. I also played the second quest by using Zelda as the file name. Could you imagine a poor girl named Zelda playing the game and not knowing about that and trying to talk to her friends in school about the game? They would think she was lying and she would think they were all crazy. That was how you figured out a lot about games back then, talking to friends at school. Back then we read the manual, which was helpful, and bought magazines like Nintendo Power, but there was no looking up a walkthrough online. I did recently replay the game and beat it, and I still needed help with the final dungeon. Finding my way around was impossible. Funny thing was, I remember where a lot of the heart containers were and which items were in which dungeon, how to go through the Lost Woods, where the store with the blue ring was, stuff like that. I do remember the weird clues from the NPCs, which I later found out were just bad translations. The dungeons were good, but of course similar, because it was NES. The game had a good variety of items for being made so many years ago. The overworld was open and huge compared to what we were used to. I mean, I think it's still a good-sized overworld today. Yes, it was cryptic, but there were hints in the manual, and there were magazines and guides you could buy to help you. Some of the cryptic stuff, you didn't need to beat the game, but I think the hardest thing to figure out that was mandatory was probably the grumble grumble. I don't remember how I knew what to do back then when I was a kid, but I could see someone thinking grumble grumble was him just being pissed off and they wouldn't know what to do. Another thing I hated was in the dungeon when you either had to have enough rupees or you would lose a heart container. That was pretty crappy. Also, finding the silver arrows. It was so easy to miss. I made it to Ganon more than once, but never found the arrows, so I had to backtrack. If a kid in the 80s didn't know the arrows existed, they would be trying to beat Ganon over and over and get frustrated. I would probably not like this game as much if I had not played it as a kid. If I'd only ever played 3D games and open world games, it would look so primitive and small to me. But since I grew up on these 8-bit games, I can still appreciate them. The music was good for the time. I mean, this is where the classic Zelda theme originated. The dungeon music could get repetitive, but still good overall. The story was short, but good, considering back then a lot of games didn't even have stories. So I think overall, I would rate this game a B. Middle of the road for me. Next up, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. This was the second game in the series, and they totally changed it up, making it a side-scroller with some RPG elements. I did not play this game as a kid, but I wanted it because I liked the first one. But I didn't get it until I was an adult. I bought the NES cartridge a few years ago and put it in my childhood NES. Oh boy, it was hard. Eventually, I got out my old Game Genie, but I think the only code I had was infinite lives, so I still died a ton. But didn't have to start all the way at the beginning again, so that was one good thing. You get 3 lives, and until you get to the final dungeon, once you lose those lives, you start at the very beginning. I know some people would say it's not a big deal, you just have to walk back to where you were, but you also have to go through random encounters and enemies, so it's so annoying. This game was maybe more cryptic than the first. Finding a heart or extra life in a random spot on that huge map while getting random encounter after random encounter. Ugh. The enemies were hard, you really needed to grind to level up, and I really didn't like it. You had to die over and over to really learn the enemy patterns. I think for the difficulty, it should have been easier to level up. The dungeons all seemed the same, except different colors. They were like mazes. You really needed to make your own map. You have to know to fall down instant death pits, so that could be a lot of trial and error dying over and over again. The difficulty of Death Mountain at the beginning was ridiculous. Plus the final boss. Having to beat Thunderbird, use a bunch of spells just to get a shot at beating it, not having enough magic to refill your health, then having to fight Darklink with no health refill. I didn't know back then that you could crouch in the corner and beat him easily, so this was just impossible and frustrating. On a positive note, the music was overall good. Sometimes I do find myself humming it for no reason. The game did have a story in the manual, which, this was the NES, so like Zelda 1, it wasn't the deepest story. But it made sense, and let you know why you were going on the mission. This game gets a D from me. Yeah, you need to get better. No thank you. Not for me. Let's look into our magic mirror and gaze back at A Link to the Past. I swear this game came packed with my SNES, because I did not have Mario World until I bought it as an adult, and if my parents had to buy me a game separate from the system, I know they would have chosen Mario, because they would play Mario NES games with me sometimes, so they wouldn't have picked Zelda before Mario. But anyway, I loved this game as a kid. I played it so much. This was the first game I remember beating as a kid. I remember when I first beat Aghanim, I thought I beat the game. I got the 3 pendants, I played for many hours over weeks or months, so then when I was taken to the Dark World and now there were 8 more crystals, 8 more dungeons, wow. So much to do. The dungeons were fun, they were challenging, but not to the point of frustration. They were all different enough to not be stale. They had so many cool items and made good use of the items. The bombable walls were cracked so you could actually know they were there. There was a dark world and a light world that you could go between to solve puzzles and reach more areas. There was so much to explore. I loved the exploration. The graphics and the art style was a step up from the NES. More content, I was blown away. As an adult, I rarely played games, but I saw A Link to the Past randomizer, and I wanted to play the games all over again. That was when I bought the game like Zelda 2 and some other Nintendo games, and got my old Nintendo out. The music is so good in this game, and the story was much deeper and was told throughout the game. I loved advancing the story to find out what would happen next. This game gets an A from me. Not an S, but high A. I still love it, and know many others do as well. It truly stands the test of time. Next, let's tighten our life vest for Link's Awakening. I also did not play this as a kid. I had a Game Boy and had 2 whole games. Link's Awakening was not one of them. I played the DX version as an adult, and never wanted to play the green and yellow Game Boy version anyway. I liked that this game was in a completely new world with new characters. I liked the addition of the Mario characters. I liked the short side-scrolling areas. I thought that just added a little variety. The dungeons were very difficult, especially having to raise and lower water. I hate that mechanic. But most were not so difficult that you couldn't complete them. The dungeons were creative and all different enough. I think it was a funny addition to the game that you could steal, but that you'd be called thief for the rest of the game. And also not get the best ending. Devs put in a little, maybe you'll get away with it, but it will haunt you. In the DX version, I loved the color dungeon, where you could get an upgraded tunic of your choice. It was just so appropriate for the game, going from monochrome to color. I think the trading quest was a clever addition, and having to find seashells to upgrade your sword, that encouraged a lot of exploration. I did hate switching between items so frequently. Why couldn't the bracelet and boots just be on after you get them? Having to switch them so often was just tedious. I did play some of the Switch version, which I know fixed these issues. I also hated every time I looked at a rock the wrong way without having the bracelet. I had a ton of text boxes to get through. That was actually really annoying. The story twist in the game was, well, it was something. Leaves you kind of deflated after you know the truth. I thought Link would stay with Marin, and nope. But I love the seagull flying at the end. I went back and forth with this game a little bit, but I think this is a B for me. I did like it, but I'm not dying to play it again. Let's saddle up our trusty steed Epona for Ocarina of Time, the first 3D Zelda game. The music, especially the opening theme, was epic. The second I hear the first note or two, I just sigh. It's so beautiful. The music in this game adds so much to the experience. I didn't play this game until I was an adult either. I got the 3DS version as an adult and played a little but never finished it. I played the N64 version more recently and completed that. I don't like the graphics of the N64, but for the time, I'm sure it was amazing. The controls got on my nerves a bit as well. I did hate having to switch the boots on and off in the menu in the water dungeon. I hated the water dungeon in general. I didn't like Ruto and having to carry her entitled rude ass all over the kid dungeon either. Oh, and I hated the stomach noises in Jabu Jabu's belly. Oh, that was horrible. I don't know why that bothers me so much. Please tell me it bothered somebody else. It can't just be me, that you could just hear that noise the whole time. Anyway. I did like throwing Ruto at switches, though. That was pretty good. I liked the story, and I thought it was well told. I loved seeing Hyrule when Link was a child, and then 7 years later, seeing how things have changed, and being able to go back and forth. Using the ocarina to perform different actions was a neat addition. I was excited to learn a new song and figure out where I could use it and what it might do. Navi leaving at the end was so sad. I know some people hate her, but the Z targeting was new, 3D was new, and for players that were new to gaming altogether, they probably really needed that help, and it was really a creative way to do that. Eventually, I would block it out anyway, so she was not too annoying for me. There was a good variety of enemies. The dungeons were different and creative. The difficulty was not too hard to get through the game, which I liked. There were a lot of side quests that were not mandatory, but would give you helpful items, which I like in a game. I like that not every minigame is necessary, because some are super difficult. It was also sad that Link did all that good for Hyrule and didn't get to enjoy any of it. And then the sepia end screen. Oh, that was impactful. I think I just sat there with the screen up for a little while. I don't have the nostalgia for this game that many people do, but I did like the game. For me, this game is an A. Okay, put the pitchforks down, put out the torches. I like it. It's just not one of my favorites. Let's go moon gazing for our next entry. Majora's Mask, one of the darker games in the series. The follow-up to Ocarina of Time. This game was done in a very limited amount of time, so the devs were able to reuse a lot of assets from Ocarina of Time. I feel like the game starts out bittersweet. Link is looking for Navi, his friend that just left him. The only friend that knows what he's been through in life. The story is definitely as unique as the gameplay. The game is played on a 3-day time cycle. I guess since the devs were stressed about time, they wanted the player to feel that same stress. I like that we collect different masks that give Link new abilities to solve puzzles and advance in the game. I like that you can pick and choose what you want to do. I am the type of person that likes to 100% every game, but I do like the option of not having to do everything. If a player only completes the mandatory parts of the game, the playtime will be pretty short. It is unusual to have most of the game be optional side quests, however. The Anju and Cafe side quest is lengthy but worth it. I think that's my favorite side quest. I remember when I first played it, I kept trying to get into the laundry to get Cafe. I just knew if I ran fast enough, I could get him. But it was not that easy. There are only 4 dungeons, which is also different from many Zelda games. The dungeons, however, are challenging and very different, which is fantastic. The game is very creative in having the NPCs have their own daily routines, which Link must learn to complete the quest. I think that was a new thing at the time, but I could be wrong. Now let's talk about the time factor. The 3-day cycle makes me strongly dislike this game. There are multiple times when I got a few things done and then I ran out of time to do the final piece of a quest and had to do the whole thing over again. That is frustrating to me. I like to progress the story, not do the same thing over and over again. I do like that if you complete a dungeon and you need to do more, you can step into the dungeon and go to the final boss, beat the boss, and go on your way. I do wish, however, I didn't have to beat the final boss again. I love exploring in Zelda games, and due to the time constraint, I felt like I couldn't do that. I would be punished for exploring, which is what I love most about Zelda games. I also don't like having to wait around and do nothing while waiting for a specific time to complete a quest. I know the 3DS improved this, but I play the N64 version, so I had to wait around a lot. If someone knows the game well, knows what to do and when to do it, I think the game would be so much fun. If there was no time limit, I would like this game so much more. This is just not for me because of that. One last positive I have to mention is, of course, the music. I feel like I'll repeat myself a million times because the Zelda series has such amazing music, but I have to mention it. Now don't get the pitchforks back out, but this game for me is a C. If not for the time limit, I think it would be an A. I would dread making one false move and was worried I was wasting my time because I wouldn't finish a dungeon or a quest in time. Put on your dancing shoes and travel with me to Holodrum for Oracle of Seasons. This Zelda game was made by Flagship, which was part of Capcom. In this game, we visit Holodrum, so like Link's Awakening, we get away from Hyrule again. However, the Triforce, Impa, and Zelda are still in the game. This game is considered more combat-focused, while Oracle of Ages is considered more puzzle-focused. I do like the game mechanic of changing the seasons. It makes each screen have 4 different variations, so the world feels 4 times as large. I felt like I needed to explore the map 4 times over to make sure I didn't miss anything. I feel like these dungeons were pretty difficult for the most part. I felt like I got lost a lot. One dungeon I had to just start over because I was so lost. This game has the same issues as Link's Awakening of switching items frequently, which is annoying. I like the interesting characters, and I like that some characters are in both games. How you interact with them in one game will affect the other game. I like the addition of the animal companions, but they weren't really used that much. I did like that depending on which animal you chose, the same area of the map would be different. I think that was really creative. I went into the game blind, so I didn't know how to get each animal. I ended up with Dimitri, which I actually wanted him the most anyway. You could throw him over holes, he could swim up waterfalls, so he was very useful. Now, let's warm up our singing voices for Oracle of Ages next. This game was released at the same time as Oracle of Seasons, which was a first for the Zelda series. In this game, we travel to Labrynna. In this game, instead of changing seasons, you change the time from the present to 400 years in the past. I like that doing something in the past will affect the future. In the beginning, you can only change time in certain spots, but later you're able to do it anywhere, which opens up the game and gives the player more freedom. This added freedom can make the game harder as well, because you have to try the time travel everywhere. I also did not like that the Goron minigame was mandatory. I bet a lot of kids got stuck on that and had to quit. Just a few last comments for both. I think these games have some of the worst music in the entire Zelda series. Some dungeon music would give me a headache, and I had to turn something else on. The story overall was better for ages than seasons in my opinion. Sometimes figuring out when to change the time or seasons would be difficult or repetitive. I like that you could use a code to link the games and get an entirely new ending. I also like that they had other codes that you could get an extra item in one game or the other, so it was fun to go back between the games, even if you'd finished one, to get more items or upgrades. You could keep your rings and use them in the opposite game. This could lead to an advantage in the second game you played, which that changes things up a little as well. In the second game, I wanted to switch animals and try a different one, but the second game makes you keep the same animal, which is fine, but I just like to try different things. These games were meant to be played 2 times each to get the complete experience, so you played Oracle of Ages and then Seasons and then Ages. This was great for replayability, but I have such a backlog, I only played 1 round. I played Ages first simply because it was in alphabetical order, so I am actually glad that I played the puzzle game first, which made the combat game easier. I think my favorite thing out of both games was the Queen Ambi story. If you played them, you know what I mean. I love knowing what happened and having a clear conclusion to the story. I'll leave it at that in case someone hasn't played it. I do consider Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons pretty different games. Different enough, at least. I know some people kind of consider them one game, but I am still ranking them together. They are still the same ranking for me, so these games are both in B tier for me. I do like Oracle of Ages better. It is close, but I just like the story in Ages better. Let's find some friends for Four Swords. This is one of the Zelda multiplayer games. This game does not have a single-player option, which I don't like. I was able to play it on Nintendo Switch Online, but trying to get that scheduled via Discord was so difficult. Plus, if you're not in the same room and the other people don't want or can't do voice chat, it can be very difficult to play. If some players can't figure out a puzzle, there's no way to help them unless you stop the game and start typing on Discord. The first time I played the game, we played the whole thing, we finished the game, and I had so much fun. But it did stress me out a bit because I was messing up, it was my first time playing, and I felt like I was ruining the game for people who knew what they were doing. I don't know how seriously the other people were taking the game, because I was just having fun. I also like exploring everything, and if the others didn't, that was kind of disappointing. I like how the level select works for a multiplayer game. You can't exactly have a multi-hour game if you need to play with other people. The game is short, but again, that's a good thing for a multiplayer game. This game is a C for me. I had a lot of fun playing, but it is so hard to get a game together. I just can't rank it any higher. Now, let's sail the seas with Windwaker. The art style of this game was criticized so much when it first came out, but I think people now see how timeless it is. I like the art style because I like the more colorful, cartoony games. I played on the GameCube version, so sometimes the slow sailing was a bit boring for me. I did not like controlling the Wind Waker to do so many actions. It was repetitive and annoyed me sometimes. Controlling Makar and Medley was also tedious. The Triforce hunt near the end was horrible. It felt like a chore to keep going. I know in the HD version there were some quality of life improvements like the swift sail and no Triforce hunt, but I didn't play that version unfortunately. I thought it was cute how Link interacted with his grandmother and his sister and that he was thrown into being the hero simply because he was so determined to save his sister. The end of the final battle with Ganon is great. You know what I mean. I was not expecting that in a cartoony game. I really like that Zelda helps us with the final battle. I like her being included more. The King of Red Lions is okay as a companion, but a little forgettable for me. I do like that there are at least some fast travel points that can be unlocked. Some of the side quests, like having to take the water from the Deku tree and go from island to island reviving the trees on a time limit, that was just too much for me. Overall, I feel like if I played the HD version, I would like it much better because of the slow sailing and the Triforce hunt were my biggest complaints. That's why I'm giving Wind Waker a B and not lower. So grab those friends again, or not, for Four Swords Adventure. Another multiplayer game, except this game has a single-player version, and a decent one at that. I like the art style, it's cute, the game is fun. I feel similar about this as I do to Four Swords, except it's a bit higher because of the single-player option. This game still gets a C from me because there's just less to it than other single-player games. Maybe if I could play it again, I would think better of it, but it's too expensive currently. Let's take a Minish detour for the Minish Cap. You know you like that. This game I just played within the last year or so as well. Are you noticing a trend? Yeah, I took years off from playing games. The first game I tried when I got my Nintendo Switch Online expansion was the Minish Cap. I was so excited. I must say, I really like this game. I like the cartoony art style, and I like the Kinstone fusions. Yeah, I said it. I like them. I like shrinking to the Picori or Minish size. It's like having a whole different world to explore, like a dark world versus light world. I love discovering every little thing. I like when there are many characters in games and our tiny things are huge to them. Like how the Picori Elder has a threaded needle as a weapon or a cane or whatever it is. It's so cute. I think my favorite little detail was when Link is Minish size and the cat swats at him. I think that's hilarious. That is such good attention to detail and I love it. I don't like when items and quests are missable in games, and this game having a missable item, a bow, that is, I get it, it's not required, but I still wanted it, and it makes me take a few points off. Speaking of completing everything, don't even bother trying to 100% this game. Anyone who has played it knows what I'm talking about. Those damn figurines. I was trying for a while to get them all, but forget that. Such tedious side quests annoy me. We'll talk more about that whole subject later. I do like the story of this game, and I like having a different villain, but the final boss fights, plural, were brutal. I felt like I was fighting 15 final bosses. When I first played, I think I was probably a hit or two away from finishing the game, and I died. I was so pissed. I didn't touch that game for months. Some of the dungeons feel too long, but they do have warp points to unlock, so if you die, you don't have to slog through it all over again as long as you've gotten far enough. That's a big plus. Our sidekick Eslo is good, but not great. I love having a companion in games anyway. The music, oh, the music, I love it. When I hear the music starts, it makes me stop and listen. I can't explain why, I just like it so much. I do. I'm gonna give this game an A. I think the shrinking mechanic was creative and fun, and there was so much to explore, so many kinstones to fuse to open up new areas. I just love it. Let's slow down a little and head to the farm for Twilight Princess. I mentioned earlier I took many years off of gaming. I did buy a Wii in 2009 or 10. I know, I was ahead of the times. I bought the Mario game and Twilight Princess. The Mario game I played a lot because it was similar to what I'd played before. But Twilight Princess, this was one of the first times I tried a 3D game. I think I played for a few minutes and quit. A 3D game with motion controls, that was just too much for me. Before that, I believe someone had tried to show me how to play their Xbox, and I just kept running in circles and hitting the wall, and I gave up on that one pretty quickly, so I guess this was more my second attempt at any sort of 3D game. So yeah, a 3D game with motion controls was not happening. I didn't touch that game again until 2025. When I got my Switch in end of 2023, beginning of 2024, something like that, I was determined to play and hopefully complete every Zelda game. So I dusted off my Wii and hooked it up to the main TV. I started a new game, and I still hated the motion controls. The art style is not my favorite, as I do like more colorful and less realistic art styles. The people look weird to me. The intro was so lengthy. I hated the goat herding. I hated the sumo wrestling. I did like Midna, snarky at first, but a good transformation throughout the game. I named my super cute, adorable, all-black kitten after her. A hyper, playful, cute as can be black kitten. What a perfect Twilight Princess for me. Sorry, the fur babies got me off track. I actually didn't like playing as Wolf Link all that much. It was creative and gave you more to explore in the same area, and I like seeing spirits as Wolf Link that you couldn't see as regular Link. Seeing places to dig, things like that. The dungeons were creative, even though some were tedious. I love saving the monkeys and then having them help us. The spinner was cool. Star-Lord, oh come on, how cool was that boss? The story was great and had some very emotional moments with perfectly matching music. Even though Zelda played a smaller role, Midna filled in well. I think my favorite area was Snow Peak Ruins because it was just so beautiful and mysterious. I was so excited to have a different villain in the game, but that hope was dashed later on. The ending was really profound, I guess. So sad, but yet so perfect. After only being able to play this on the Wii, I'll give the game a B. The beginning is a slog. I hated collecting bugs. I hate motion controls. Maybe if I played it on the GameCube version, I would give it an A, so maybe I'll revisit this later. Please, Nintendo, release Twilight Princess for purchase or on Nintendo Switch Online. I don't care. I just want a better version to play. That's not way over $100. I really thought they would do that for the 40th anniversary, but they didn't. Now we have all year, so I can still hope. If Nintendo keeps with the tradition of releasing something Zelda almost every year, we're due for something this year. Windwaker was released on Nintendo Switch Online in 2025, so let's get to it. Let's pull up anchor for Phantom Hourglass. I despise motion controls, except for aiming, but you know what I mean. And I also hate stylus controls. A lot. I only played this entry and the next to try to meet my goal of playing and finishing every Zelda game. I knew I would probably dislike it, and I did. The stylus controls are terrible. Blowing into the microphone, I hated that too. Trying to roll into trees, for example, worked about 10% of the time for me. The side characters, NPCs, companions were pretty good. Being able to take notes on the map, that was a neat feature, I did like that. I tried to take good care of my stuff, so having to use the stylus on my 3DS screen, I felt like I was going to destroy it. The only thing I liked about the stylus was changing items and drawing the path of the boomerang, things like that. The boss fights that utilized both screens were creative, but sometimes very difficult for me to have to look back and forth. I hated having to go back to the same dungeon 50 times, which I'm sure most people dislike. Oh, it wasn't 50, well, it felt like it. The music was better than it should have been. That was probably the best thing about the game. I give this game a D. No, not an F. It was playable, just not enjoyable for me. I know if they remake it with normal controls, I would like it. I'm not smart enough to know how to play the game other ways, you know what I mean? So unless Nintendo remakes it, I'll be stuck with the stylus. Choo-choo! All aboard for Spirit Tracks. I have similar feelings about this game as I do about Phantom Hourglass. Of course. Hate the stylus, hate the blowing, get your mind out of the gutter. The damn flute was annoying. The story was better than Phantom Hourglass, in my opinion. I liked Zelda being our companion. I liked Burns' character transformation. Like Phantom Hourglass, the music was better than it deserved to be. Like other Zelda songs, I find myself humming the overworld theme from time to time. I still did give this game a D for the same reason as Phantom Hourglass, but it is higher because I like the story a little bit better. Let's all jump onto our loft wing as we fly to Skyloft to talk about Skyward Sword. I was gonna say let's all jump off a bridge or jump off a cliff, because you know, you do that in the game, but I figured that might get me in trouble. So anyway, this is the first game in the timeline. At least for right now, we'll see if they change it. In this story, Zelda's not a princess, and Link is only in training to be a knight, and the relationship between the two is one of the best in my opinion. To me, the story is the best in the franchise. So many touching moments, like Zelda asking Link to wake her up for a change, and saying she is still his Zelda. Oh. The music is wonderful, the Ballad of the Goddess is absolutely beautiful. The game does revisit locations and bosses repeatedly, and there are some tedious quests, Scrapper, but I think the areas were changed enough that it still works for me. And having to fight a certain boss more than once, it makes sense for the plot, and it changed up a little bit each time. I actually liked the Silent Realm as well. The first one I was like, oh no, this is going to be impossible. It was stressful, but I had fun. There was one that I had to do 3 times, I think, before I finished it. Now, I did have my frustrating moments where I said, once I finish this damn game, I'm never going to touch it again. I know I said that a lot, with them damn tad tones. Oh my god, I hated that thing. Hated that one. Hated that part. The sky is a bit empty, but still fun to explore looking for the goddess chest after you find them on the mainland, hoping you'll get something good. I thought a lot of the NPCs were funny, like Groose, and the Mogma, and yes, Mr. Shortpants, I even liked Scrapper. I like the addition of having to explore in both day and night. I only played the Switch version, so I did not use motion control since I do not like them. It did still take me a while to get used to how the sword controlled and flying the loft wing, but I think the game has good tutorials to teach the player. I like that Fi was very clinical and robotic for most of the game until the end. Her relationship with Link was able to almost rewire a robot. That's really touching. But then it was sad that she had to leave him. Again, this story was so good in so many ways. Okay, I hid the pitchforks and torches, so don't even look for them. This game for me is an A. If I had an easier time with the controls and the quests were better, I would give it an S. But A it is. Let's paint the picture for A Link Between Worlds. This is my absolute favorite 2D Zelda game. As I mentioned earlier, I had taken long breaks on and off from gaming for years. I somehow saw this game being played and I thought, I love A Link to the Past and this game looks just like it. I want to play that. I saw that it was on 3DS, so I bought a 3DS and that game only at the time. I don't like playing handheld, but I love the game so much. I have played and beaten it multiple times over the years. They took all the things great about A Link to the Past and made it better. I love the art style. I like having low roll to take the place of the Dark World. I love having Ravio and Hilda be the low roll version of Link and Zelda. The dungeons were all different to keep the gameplay fresh. The bosses were great. My favorite boss is Blind. I love how they kept the boss but changed the idea and made it so much better. I love when you merge onto the shield. That was so clever. For me, a huge plus is being able to rent and later purchase and then even upgrade your items. So you can do the dungeons in almost any order. Each time I play it, I try to do them in a different order, just to change it up for replayability. Even though you rent your items, there's still something to get out of each dungeon, an item, or an upgrade to an item, to open up more of the world. This game has a stamina gauge for your weapons, so instead of buying bombs and arrows, you just have to wait a short time for the stamina gauge to refill. This game is easier than other Zelda games. It's fun, it's cute. If someone was new to the Zelda series, I would recommend this game as a good start, especially for a 2D game. Obviously, the music is very similar to A Link to the Past, and I love that music, and I love this one as well. Now, I'm sure it's no surprise, but I give this game an S. Until I played Breath of the Wild, this was actually my favorite game of all time. Now let's get all dressed up for Triforce Heroes. This is yet another multiplayer game. This was meant to be played with 2 other people on the 3DS. Yeah, that sounds real practical. There is a single-player version, but it is tedious and absolutely awful. The devs did not change up any of the puzzles for single-player, and some are damn near impossible. Like when you have to balance on platforms to beat a boss, or hit switches of different heights in a short amount of time. You have to switch between the 3 characters, which are like dead dolls. It looks disgusting. It looks like you're carrying a corpse around. Anyway, so you have to switch between the 3 characters and totem or stand on each other's shoulders to solve puzzles. I'm sure this game is so much fun with 3 players, but I was only able to play single player and it was horrible. This game has a very strange fashion-based story that takes place in Hytopia. I have no desire to play this game single player ever again. I should probably give this game a D, but I will give it a C because I did have some fun with it, and if I could play multiplayer, I feel like I would really like it. I'm pretty much ranking it the same as the other multiplayer games. Let's wake up from our restorative nap for Breath of the Wild. I had heard of Breath of the Wild when it came out because I was watching A Link to the Past randomizers, but had no plans on getting a Switch, so I never paid much attention at that time. When I got my Switch years later, I got Breath of the Wild, but worried it would be too hard for me since I didn't do so well with Twilight Princess or other 3D games years prior. Picture this. Upon me loading that game up, which is basically almost my first 3D game, really, and only playing A Link Between Worlds sporadically for years, I played the opening scene and walked out of that cave for the first time. The music swelled. It was amazing. I think most people who played Breath of the Wild had that same amazing experience and will never have it again. This is the game that got me back into gaming altogether. I loved it. I still love it. I wanted to explore everything, finish the game to complete the experience and the entire story, but yet I wanted it to last forever at the same time. The world, the music, the characters, most of the quests, it was practically perfect. Gaining the sages' abilities one by one, some more useful than others, was a great game addition. The Guardians were terrifying. To this day, if I hear that music, my heart skips a beat. You can go almost anywhere and do almost anything you want, and make the game harder or easier depending on how much of a challenge you want. I could talk forever, so I'll leave it at that. Actually, no. I said in the Minish Cap we would talk about tedious side quests. I think collecting 900 Koroks is pretty damn tedious. But you're really not meant to collect all 900. You need about half that to get your weapon slots upgraded to max capacity. So, I get it, you're not meant to. But you know, for certain people, they gotta 100% everything, and it's disappointing if we can't, so talk about tedious. Anyway, so I'm sure you could imagine this game, of course, gets an S from me. I love it, not to sound corny, but it did change my life. It made me want to play games again. It was so different than anything I'd ever played before. If not for that game, I probably wouldn't be playing games, and I wouldn't have started this YouTube channel. Let's dust off our schematics and talk about Tears of the Kingdom. To me, this game is Breath of the Wild, but better. They kept everything I loved and added more. I mean, not 100 more Koroks, but, anyway. More areas to explore in the sky and the depths, abilities to fuse weapons, build crazy creations, solve puzzles in so many different ways. They added boss bokos. I still remember the first time I saw one of those. I liked the story, I liked looking for the tears, the final boss battles, they were all epic in their own way. The ending with Zelda was so good. I liked having the sage companions. I think I like the sage's abilities better in Breath of the Wild, but it's close. And like the Guardians, when I hear the Gloomspawn music, my heart still skips a beat. And like I said for Breath of the Wild, I could talk forever, so I'll leave it there. Obviously, this game gets an S for me. What do I even need to say? Not to cause a rift, but let me share my opinion of Echoes of Wisdom. You like that one? Yeah, that was pretty good too. We get to play as Zelda? Great! Link's Awakening Switch remake art style? Yes! Instead of just using normal combat weapons, we get to have our once enemies fight our battles for us? Okay, sounds interesting. I did pre-order this game, but didn't know how much I would actually like it. I think Tri is a cute companion, and I do like the ecosystem and being able to get more triangles for more or stronger echoes the more we advance in the game. I thought the story was good, and having to fix the rifts was a creative choice. There's a lot of freedom in the game to go where you want and do what you want, in whatever order you want. I liked how the rifts looked inside, and the music made it so much creepier and more mysterious. It's not the deepest story in the franchise, but I liked it. I liked having the Deku back in the story. I really liked Conde. I thought the bosses and dungeons were creative. I liked that they added the ability to use Link's weapons for short periods of time. We had to fight Ganon in the game, but also had a completely new villain. And just like Zelda has helped Link in previous boss battles and games, now Link gets to help Zelda. Instead of cooking, we make smoothies for health refills and to give us different abilities. The variety of items and outfits in the game, and getting to choose which ones we equip depending on the situation, that was a good addition. This game also has music that when I hear it, I stop and listen, and it just makes me happy. I remember I was cleaning one day, and I had the TV on in the background like I always do, not paying attention. I suddenly stopped. I stopped what I was doing, not even sure why. I listened, and someone was talking about something, I don't even know. But I kept listening, but then I realized they had Echoes of Wisdom playing so super low in the background. My brain just heard it before I even knew what was going on. That should tell you how much I love that music. So for this final game, what would I rank this? This game gets an S from me. Yes, an S. I love this game. And if I didn't have so many other games I wanted to play, I would play this game again right now. For all of you that stayed to the end, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you will join our Siren community. Like, subscribe, please leave me a comment. That's the only way the video gets out there, apparently, is if people, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. So I would also just love to hear your rankings. I want to know what other people say. I don't think anyone's ranking or reasons for their ranking has ever, been the same. Everyone's different, and I really love that about, watching these, because I do watch some of these to see other people's opinions, so. Anyway, that concludes my ranking video for every mainline Zelda game released so far. Until next time.